I got The Life and Music of James Brown. This just came out by R.J. Smith. Oh, boy, is this guy a trip? I mean, as if we didn't know. Mm-hmm. I just highlighted a few things. I was, usually I'll turn the page over and I'm like, I got to go back to that page. There's some pretty good stuff there. Anyway, I'm turning over every page. It's ridiculous.
One of those.
But just a few highlights. They're talking about, this is sort of after James's career is, the 60s were really good to James Brown. He had a lot of hits, especially on the urban charts, but even crossing over into the pop charts, he had a few songs that did pretty well. And, he was a monster, plus all the people he influenced. So many people, even to this day, people are sampling all those riffs and all those pieces of all those James Brown songs. I mean, I don't know if there's a bigger influence in that category than James Brown. But anyway, things have gone a little bit south for him. In fact, money's getting a little tight because James was spending like a champion when things were good. And, it's pretty hard to tell a guy he's got to cut back. And so they have a hard time doing that. In fact, I don't even know if they did tell him.
Yeah, especially him. How do you tell James Brown to cut back?
I think it's pretty hard to tell him anything.
Yeah, anything. That's right.
But anyway, they're pointing out how finally they get it through to James that look, things are scaled down. They're just going to have to be. There's no way around until we get a couple more hit records or the catalog starts to do better. So anyway, they're talking about all the ways that James still sort of makes sure that people know who he is. Like, for example, he'd check in at a hotel. He'd send one of his assistants, Henry Stallings, up to check in first. And then James would charge in, and he'd always be barking orders at like 2 or 3 assistants as he enters the hotel, just so everyone kind of knew that the player had arrived.
Yeah.
And then as far as the women, they said, this is another one of his employees. I was with him one night when he had about 6 at the hotel, called Richard Laster. We used to run interference. He'd give us money to entertain them, tell them jokes while they were waiting for him. He'd laugh and come up to me and say, Mr. Laster, tonight I did a nickel. That was 5. Another night it was, I did a tray. I'm free, single, and I like to mingle. That's that line he uses on that piece where he's being interviewed on CNN. He says, I'm single and I like to mingle. But that was his big line.
Oh, God.
I'm single and I like to mingle.
That was a fantastic little interview. Oh, what a kook.
Oh, yeah, that's really funny.
Oh, my God.
It was at this moment, this is really strange. I told you about this Saturday night. I just can't even get over this. It was at this moment when his finances were in shambles and his ability to make money severely disabled that Brown began to use the drug PCP. Now, he's in his early 50s. He's not really a drug user. I think they said he used to drink a couple beers after shows and stuff to sort of, calm himself down.
Yeah.
But he's not really a drug guy, and all of a sudden, he goes from 0 to PCP.
Oh.
Also called angel dust. It had once been used as an animal tranquilizer, was tested as a human anesthetic decades earlier, but it was discarded because of the psychotic effects.
Isn't that something? Yeah, when that came around Adams High School in 1972, I remember I was going, what is this PCP? And
I remember that coming.
It's animal tranquilizer, man. Yeah.
That's funny. I always heard that, too, and I remember certain people hearing about people doing it. And I was actually at a party one night when somebody was doing PCP, and oh my God, did they freak out? Freaked out.
Yeah,
I just remember thinking to myself, well, I'm never going near that. Whatever the hell that is, what is doing that to him? Because I don't want anything to do with it.
Oh, a lot of energy bouncing off the walls and every other thing. But the thing of it is the expression used to be when kids would do it and just completely flip out and literally go berserk. And remember the expression there, dusted. Dusted was the phrase.
Yep.
Well, what happened to Jerry? Oh, man.
He's so dusted.
It's a great way of putting it.
That is a great term.
It's a great term. It was great. Oh, so dusted, dude.
But he used to, apparently he would snort angel dust, and then somebody told him, you really ought to, do that in a different way. That's just not the best way to do PCP. And somebody talked him into sprinkling it on pot and smoking it.
Yeah, that was, yeah.
And that's what he starts
that's what
doing.
Was going on at Adams. It was PCPs that had been sprinkled into pot.
And he would do it all himself. He'd break up the crumbs of the drug and sprinkle it over pot. And then for years, he talked about it as if it was only marijuana he was smoking. He liked it because, he could smoke his pot, he could smoke his joint, just say, yeah, I just smoke a little pot here and there, no big deal.
Yeah.
As if nobody would know that he was on more than pot.
Right.
And they say, he almost seemed to believe it himself. Bob Patton, a booker and aide to Brown, accidentally shared a joint dosed with PCP in the mid-'70s and hallucinated for hours.
Boy, oh boy.
And they say that James would, occasionally, he did this with an attorney once, and this is a guy who was doing something for James Brown, but he's in a limo with this guy, and all of a sudden somebody gets in, and he sees the attorney is taking a hit off James's joint.
Oh.
And he's like, oh no.
Here we go.
And he tries to, take the joint and basically, make sure the guy doesn't get it back. And I guess he gets it back for one hit or something. The guy was really like wondering, is something wrong with it? What's with this pot?
Oh.
But James would do that. He would give people hits off this joint. People who thought it was a joint. It's laced with PCP and they'd be a mess.
God dang.
Fortunately, it only
man.
happened a few times, but,
Holy smokes. Yeah, because it had such a stimulant quality to it. And it literally made everybody, the people that,
well, the people who didn't know it was
it
coming
was
would have a
just,
terrible time.
yeah.
One time in Augusta, this is one of his band members, and we're thinking, man, we got to get paid because it was payday. We're called Clayton Philyaw Jr. He calls Danny Ray asking if James Brown was home. Man, he's home, but I don't know if you want to go. He's on that stuff.
Yeah.
So his dad's in the band too, and his dad thought they should go get paid before James got too crazy. So we're driving fast down the road, and all of a sudden we see this black Cadillac Seville passing us going the other way at something like 130 miles per hour.
Uh-oh.
It was James Brown!
Oh, man. Oh.
My dad turns around, somehow manages to catch up to him, but before we can get to him, he hops around the car, does some little dance or something, then just jumps in and starts flying back into South Carolina. We can't even keep up with him.
See, that's just like ultimately with that Ford truck.
Yeah, the first story when he got out and did his Goodfoot dance.
Yeah.
With about 20 cops there.
So it's almost like a pattern of his.
We know what,
like a maniac jump out, do a little dance, and jump back in. And
well, this is
leave
what's
rubber
so
out of
funny
there.
about James is he loves to drive. When he smokes PCP,
Yeah.
he loves to drive. There's nothing he likes to do more than drive.
Oh, great.
So,
That's
and they point out
stimulated.
all the terrible effects this thing has on your judgment and whatnot. But anyway,
Oh, my God.
Groundhog's Day 1982, he's taping an appearance on Solid Gold. He was going to sing I Got You, I Feel Good, perform a comedy routine with ventriloquist Waylon Flowers and his puppet Madame.
Oh, my
Who the hell is
God.
Waylon Flowers?
His puppet
I
madame.
know, what a bad idea.
Oh, what a horrible act.
I know, can you imagine all the horrible things James Brown was asked to do in the course of a career like that? Just
Yeah.
dumb things like that. How
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, whoever made him do that or suggest that, they ought to be shot. That's disgusting. A guy of James Brown's stature. God, that's terrible.
Oh, God.
Walking down a hallway before the taping, Brown saw the show's hairstylist through an open door. Good God, he said, look at the spank on that woman.
The spank
The
on him?
spank meaning the ass.
Oh,
That was James' term for having a nice ass. What a spank on that woman!
I love that. That's great.
I've never heard that before until I read this.
I've never heard that before.
So they start spending all kinds of time together.
Oh, my
Adrian Lois Rodriguez, 32, was an exotic-looking woman who had once dated Elvis Presley, so she was obviously pretty hot. They married in 84. James said he had a special bond with her. He said, our souls met a long time ago. We met visually on Solid Gold, but we were already really together because we're third world people, whatever that means.
Yeah.
So anyway, things start to go better for James. The Blues Brothers comes along. You know, a little scene he's got in the Blues Brothers in the church.
Yeah.
And Aykroyd and Belushi, they really start championing his cause. Although he's having some IRS problems, he's starting to gain interest with a whole new audience. And then, let's see. Yeah, not too long after that's Rocky IV, Living in America.
Yeah.
So things are getting a little better, but he still was spending too much. So they said his finances were improving, but not too much. Brown lost his Beach Island house in 1987, but then his lawyer, Buddy Dallas, bought it and gave it back to him. It was a time of clean breaks and fresh starts, punctuated by crazy drives into the Pines. With Living in America still booming out of the radio, Brown was in the first class of inductees in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, joining Elvis, Little Richard, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Buddy Holly, Fats Domino, Jerry Lee Lewis, and the other Everly Brothers. These were his peers, some of them old acquaintances. Unlike any of them, though, James had a hit record at the time of his induction. So James thinks he's really sort of head and shoulders above all the other inductees. So he shows up in crimson silk shirt, chartreuse scarf, and a black coat. After he picks up his award, he gives a speech, and then, there's this whole evening ahead of him. And James turned to his assistants and said, "Let's go." And they're like, "Go?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's get out of here." And meanwhile, there's all these stars there. They've got this big performance, this big jam. And they're like, "James, what about all this other stuff?" And James says, "Never be regular. Don't ever let them get tired of you. Let's duck out of here." So he completely blew off the Hall of Fame. Maybe
Wow.
that was one of his mantras. Don't ever let them get tired of you. But at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, come on, man. So on with Adrian. They called each other Sugar Wooga. That were the nicknames for each other. Sugar Wooga. Brown's recreational PCP use is escalating now into addiction, and she's using it too. Mediacs have described how the drug makes time seem to speed up and make hours and days seem to flutter in an instant. For James and Adrian, at any rate, events were rocketing forward and the drugs created a whole new kind of rhythm in their lives, oscillating between crazy rage and operatic displays of affection. She called 911 to report domestic violence once in 84, 3 times in 85, once in 87, and 7 times in 1988. Some of it was swallowed up behind Beach Island's gates, but on the road incidents were harder to hide. When the couple were staying at the Plaza Hotel in New York, Adrian became convinced James had been with another woman, and she confronted the woman and ends up stabbing her in the ass. Brown's attorney, Buddy Dallas, dealt with the hotel and said later, "I was able to settle the matter out of court for a small compensation to the lady friend who took the scissors in the buttocks." Oh, man. On another occasion, Brown's playing Vegas. Adrian was with him. They arrive at the airport, and they're with Buddy Dallas's attorney. Buddy says, "Being a Southern boy, my mother always taught me to be polite to ladies." And then Mrs. Brown had 2 big, heavy bags. I reached down to pick up her bags, and when I picked them up, she said, he said, "My God, these must weigh 50 pounds apiece." Mrs. Brown came running over, demanded I put the bags down. "Mr. Dallas, what you don't know about those bags is they can get you arrested." She insisted on carrying the bags. So, anyway, the theory was, I guess, that the drugs obviously were in those bags, and that she carried them on the road whenever they traveled. PCP had come into his life before Adrian, but it wasn't until after he met her that his drug use hit the public record. Probably he was smoking more than ever, and probably her control of who got to be around her husband kept a few of his protectors at bay. But one thing was a certainty. Both of them liked to get high and go for a drive. In September 87, Brown led police on a high-speed tour around downtown Augusta, including breathtaking shortcuts through an IHOP parking lot.
IHOP parking lot. That's great.
That same month, Adrian was pulled over in a Lincoln Town car at 4 a.m. for doing 70 in a 45.
Oh, my God.
When the police put her in a squad car, she tried kicking the doors out. That November, Brown struck 3 cars at 2 different Todd's stop-and-goes, then drove away. He was jailed for resisting arrest and leaving the scene of an accident twice. So he's just like literally like a ping pong ball into cars in these parking lots and just drives off.
That's what's so funny, the way he just cruises off, you know.
Well, he's on a it's a hallucinogen. So, I mean, I'm amazed he doesn't get into more accidents, really.
I'd love to see the video of that. If there'd been video back then up on the light poles, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Oh, my God, yes.
It would be the driving away that would be the funniest, I think.
It is always the funniest thing. Boy, it is funny to see. When no one's really hurt, to see a car accident is really damn funny, isn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah.
I mean, what definitely. A nightmare for the drivers.
Sure.
Oh.
Yeah. God, yeah. Oh, God, what a mess. Jesus.
Todd's Shop and Go. 2 Todd Shop and Goes. He hits multiple cars in the parking lot. Easter weekend 88, Adrian called 911, reported Brown had beaten and threatened to kill her. He disappeared, turning himself in the next day. She told reporters she wanted a divorce. A week later, she was arrested at Augusta's Bushfield Airport after a PCP-soaked cigarette and 4 nasal spray bottles of PCP were found on her and a friend.
Oh, my God.
A month after that, she was arrested for setting Brown's clothes on fire in a Bedford, New Hampshire hotel room and for possessing 7 ounces of PCP.
God,
these people.
Jeez.
The flutterings between rage and romance were happening so quickly now it was hard to tell which extreme they were visiting at a given moment. In May, he spent the night in jail after she phoned the police, and he fled. When he was finally arrested, it was for possession of PCP, assault and battery, failing to stop for police, and possession of an unlicensed pistol. Now, he said he wanted a divorce. Soon after, her lawyer was in court trying to get a drug charge dropped with a novel defense. Augusta had once officially designated James Brown an ambassador of soul, ergo, he had diplomatic immunity.
Oh, boy.
Which, per the norms of stagecraft, should carry over to a diplomat's spouse. Adrian's attorney wanted diplomatic immunity because James was the ambassador of soul.
The ambassador of soul. That's fantastic.
That's so
diplomatic
ridiculous.
immunity because the
He's the ambassador of soul.
Oh my God.
And
it just
because
doesn't get any better than that. That's
well,
absolutely
it was in Augusta,
insane.
and Augusta was pretty much James's home, and they had,
my God.
Eventually they put a statue up of James Brown. Augusta was really where it all sort of happened. And, if he had diplomatic immunity anywhere, it would certainly be in Augusta. I don't know about this whole diplomatic immunity thing, but if he had it anywhere, it would certainly be Augusta.
Oh, man, is that great.
To anyone brave enough to venture the question, James Brown denied he even used drugs, let alone was an addict. No way would he poison the flesh that had given him so many gifts. My nose, my ears, my eyes, my rectum, my privates, those are parts of my body I don't want to fool with. And my arm. That's a quote. Then he went out for a drive. It started his business office in Augusta on September the 24th after Brown had determined somebody had used his bathroom without permission. Toting a shotgun, he walked into an insurance seminar next door. All who witnessed this said he appeared very mad. No one disagrees with that. Folks chose their words carefully when he inquired, "Who has used my toilet?" Who used my toilet? I need to know right now. Who used James Brown's toilet?
And I want to know, what is it that he saw that let him know that somebody else had used his toilet?
That's a good question.
I mean,
But continuing the quote, "Man up! Who used my toilet?
how would he know that?
God damn it! Who used my toilet?"
There's skid marks from hell and there's somebody just...
So,
I don't know.
Brown departed, leaving his gun, which they said was unloaded, leaning against a wall when he exited the room, and seems to have inspired confusion as much as fear among the attendees. By the time an off-duty sheriff at the seminar called law enforcement, Brown was already in his red and white Ford pickup. When he observed officers arriving, he did a U-turn in the parking lot and raced off. I love the visual. Just seeing that little Ford truck doing a U-turn and off he goes.
Fantastic. Just fantastic.
Thus began the heated pursuit along the dotted line of Georgia line, with Brown driving across the Savannah into South Carolina, then doubling back into Georgia and ultimately grinding to a halt on rims. His front tires shot out, sparks flying, the pickup riddled with bullets as a line of police officers finally stopped his forward motion. It was said by a Georgia Highway Patrol officer that when he came to rest, Brown sang Georgia and did the good foot dance.
What a nut.
I know, it's so classic.
Total kook.
He was found guilty of failing to stop for a blue light, South Carolina parlance for running from the police a felony. Attempting to run down 2 state safety officers. A weapons charge was thrown out on insufficient evidence. Sentenced to 6 years in Georgia, 6.5 in South Carolina to serve concurrently. When describing the situation to those who reached him in prison, inmate number 155413 sounded baffled, indignant, bitter. "I've been in slavery all my life. Ain't nothing new," he said of his prison term. "It just means I don't have to answer a whole lot of phone calls. Ain't nothing changed for me but the address."
That's fantastic.
Oh, man.
God, that is the best.
His explanation never quite passed muster. All these complications, Brown explained, came from a very simple event. "God said, 'Boy, go home.' I got in my truck and tried to go home. Then the police began to chase me." He tried to go home, but he could not. Oh, God. He's so funny. Oh, man. So anyway, that's kind of, gotta tell you, his childhood is one really sad stretch of road. Oh, you talk about tough. Boy, this son of a bitch had to be tough. He was treated like absolute trash as a child. But somewhere in there, he loved music, and a couple people kind of recognized that, which is, I think, something you got to think about when you see kids, screwed up kids at, 12, 13, 14. If they have a passion for something, a lot of times there's a way out, as there was for James Brown, because this guy had, no hope, nothing. Just a lot of adults who treated him like garbage, and he came flying out of that with his music one way or another. But it is the life and music of James Brown, very entertaining. I didn't read that much, and just bumped into so many amusing things. And his music career, of course, is fascinating as hell.
That's just great. I'm sure there's a million more stories in there, plus all the stuff with the cape and how all that came to be.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that,
so
because there's a
much
great
to this
story
guy.
about that. I'll have to highlight some more stuff tomorrow.
God, he's so trippy, so far out. What a career. Man, oh man, sweating through his shoes, the speed at which he danced.
Yep. At the Apollo.
The hair care that he got.
The Apollo is where he sweated through his shoes and was leaving footprints of sweat through a leather shoe on the stage.
Oh, God.
And by the way, I don't know if you remember this. When he died, they took his body to the Apollo. They thought, well, he's got to lie in, like lying in state at the Apollo.
Yeah.
And they changed his outfit 2 or 3 times while he was lying in state.
Really? Is that right?
They did.
Yeah, even his corpse was sweating.
They just felt.
He sweat right through his coffin.
They just felt James just would, if anybody would appreciate that, James would. So they brought all these changes of outfit for him.
Oh,
while
my
he's
God.
lying in state.
That's wild. Oh, my God.
Or the equivalent of lying in state, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, jeez.
We got to talk to Mickey here in a minute. We should take a break first, though. And then another thing I thought was pretty funny. There's 15 annoying things girlfriends do that you have to put up with.
Yeah.
Boy, there's really just dead nuts on some of these. Just to give you an idea of this list and how good it is. Number 1 is random item relocation.
Yeah.
Nothing could be more vexing to realize while heading out the door than that you have no idea as to where your hat, jacket, or even shoes have disappeared to. Girlfriends have an uncanny knack for arbitrarily deciding that there's a proper place for an item you have improperly placed for months or even